Hey, good morning, friends. Today, my friends, is Thursday, April the 9th, 2026, and the time now is 7:52 a.m. So, friends, I want to talk about the situation in the Middle East, and I want to talk specifically about the ceasefire which was announced about day before yesterday or so, and the fact that the ceasefire had been broken and we are back to square one. I want to talk specifically about the current relations or relationship between the United States, Iran, and Israel, and some of the things that have been coming out or allegation. And I came across a news about an interview conducted by, I think, if I can remember, the New York Times regarding Netanyahu's trip to the United States, in which he was ushered into the Situation Room, where he did deliver a presentation, and the congregation or the occupant, okay, those who were present in the Situation Room during Netanyahu's presentation, basically thought what he was saying was just bullshit, and he was basically hypering the threat that Iran supposedly posed to Israel or to the United States. Now, friends, we know just recently, okay, about a couple of days ago, let's say by the end of last week to the weekend, Donald Trump issued out a tweet. Basically, we know Donald Trump had been hospitalized and he came back out of the hospital. And we know we are back to square one in terms of the situation in the Middle East. But Donald Trump issued or made a tweet on his Truth Social, basically demanding that Iran open the Straits of Hormuz, and that if Iran doesn't do so within first about 24, 48 hours, and then another 24 hours, that if Iran doesn't do that, he is going to rain hellfire on Iran. He basically called them or remarked, okay, at Iranian, calling them crazy bastards, and tell them just watch or whatsoever. Previously, Donald Trump had already also threatened to bomb Iran to the Stone Age, which basically doesn't sit well or did not sit well with many around the world, whether we are talking about the Middle East, Africa, Asia, South Asia, Latin America, Caribbean, and so on, because that in itself is a threat of genocide. And if you're talking about bombing them to the Stone Age and wiping out a civilization whose descendants number in a massive country about 91 million, if you're talking about bombing them to the Stone Age and basically decimating Iran, I think I can only think of the possibility of achieving that with the use of nuclear bomb, which in itself not only is a genocide, a war crime, but it is going to be a bad thing for Donald Trump, his administration, and for the United States. In this case, Donald Trump, he bites more than he can chew, and he puts his foot in his own mouth. He is saying a bunch of nonsense, writing checks, okay, that cannot be cashed. When one makes such a threat, one has to act upon such a threat. The bad thing for Donald Trump is he makes elaborate, crazy threat, and he doesn't follow up with these threats because he then realized that the consequences are dire should he makes good on his threat. Now, friends, I apologize for deviating, but back to the situation. So, not only that Donald Trump had made threatening Iranian that if they do not open the Straits of Hormuz, that he is going to bomb them to the Stone Age. He is going to rain hellfire on them. He had made lots of insults, and Iranians have also released lots of AI-generated video, propaganda video, which basically are brilliant. They are amazing video trolling the United States, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, and his administration. it turns out that as much as Donald Trump been talking smack, and that Donald Trump been saying that the Iranians had been wanting to engage in a negotiation, it turns out that it is he, Donald Trump, him, and the United States, his administration, that had been reaching out to Iran for a negotiation. And this also points out to Donald Trump's reality, to who he is, and the United States as an institution, as a country, where when they say something, it is actually a projection of something that they've already been doing or that they are currently doing. So, friends, as much as Donald Trump has been talking smack about Iran and saying that the Iranians have been wanting negotiation, it turns out that it is him, the United States, who've been reaching out to Iran for negotiation. And Iran had previously denied that they've reached out to the United States for negotiation. But now it turns out that with Pakistan being the middleman, both the United States and Iran had been communicating, and a ceasefire was announced about 24 to 48 hours ago. And immediately as the ceasefire was being announced, as the news came out, Israel struck southern Lebanon. Grand attack, large-scale attack on southern Lebanon. It is said that about 180 people had died and about 600 or so people had been wounded. Now, Iran immediately, as much as it had opened the Strait of Hormuz, okay, let things in free as a result of the negotiation reaching out between Iran and the United States, Iran then doubled down, closed the Straits of Hormuz again. Now, Donald Trump and Israel are saying that Lebanon has not been and is not part of the negotiation talk between the United States and Iran, which Israel is not part of, as it appears to be. But I think Israel basically is doing that because Israel does not want a negotiation. Israel wants the war to continue. But what I suspect is the strategy, as Netanyahu said in one of the videos that got released about a day or two ago, that he wants the war to continue. Eventually, the war is going to start again, even if they do have a ceasefire. So basically, this so-called ceasefire is not a ceasefire, but a freezing of the conflict, so that Israel and the United States can reorganize, restock their ammunition, and commence the war, the attack on Iran again. In that case, Iran should not agree to a ceasefire, but to a complete season of the war. The war has to end. Either end the war now and accept the terms that Iran has, or we continue the war. Israel and the United States should not be left off the hook. However, in terms of Israel attacking Lebanon, southern Lebanon, I think they are doing that because they want the war to continue. Because Iran, I believe, cannot go into a negotiation with the United States and betray Lebanon, betray Gaza, betray Yemen. So by Israel attacking southern Lebanon, makes the negotiation talk difficult and basically sabotage the talk. But what this entails is that the situation in the Middle East will continue and that it could become worse than current. Now, friends, please tell me what you think, and I really, really want to know what you think. However, friends, I am going to end here. I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, my friends, but most especially and most importantly, friends, I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace, my friends. Peace.